Congressman, welcome back to Mea Culpa. Great to see you, my friend. It's been unfortunately too long, and we're both going through a lot. So let me start by asking you a very straight up question. When you look across all the issues that are plaguing right now the United States of America, government shutdown, the SNAP cuts, the job loss, the tariffs, the overreach, what's the through line? Is this about economic mismanagement, moral decay, or something far darker in the soul of this administration?
I think Fred Trump didn't spank him enough.
Okay, well, let me just jump right into the topics in and of itself. So this latest government shutdown didn't just cripple Washington, right? It froze food inspections, stalled veterans benefits, and it left federal workers in limbo. Left you in limbo. What do you say to Americans who feel that this isn't governance, but rather hostage taking?
Definitely the SNAP payment was hostage taking. I think in cutting out 10% of the air flights tomorrow is hostage taking. He just doesn't want to negotiate. He thinks he's the art of the deal, but he won't sit down with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to try to come to a deal. And the fact is, the deal that he would offer on the ACA premiums would be beneficial to his party. His main concern right now, other than putting money in his pocket, is to have the House be Republican the next Congress so that he doesn't have a lot of oversight of what he's done, which would be enlightening to the public. But these raising the premiums on all these people on the ACA, many of which are in red states, is going to be harmful to Republicans. So they suffered massive defeats on Tuesday. They will suffer even greater defeats come next November because of these ACA premium increases, which on average will be 30%, but some will be double. And then the people that go without SNAP, they won't forget their hungry bellies. Children, seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, they're going to go without. When there's money put there for this purpose to take care of people on SNAP if there's a shutdown. The courts ordered him to do it. The law requires him to do it, and he won't do it. That's cruel, heartless, and immoral. And that's where we are. And Trump is just, he's not showing himself to be such a great politician anymore. Maybe in his second term, he doesn't care because he can't be sued for anything in his official capacity. The Supreme Court gave him an ollie in free and taking bribes on pardons, which the $2 billion to crypto was definitely responsible for that pardon. And he's had others. I mean, pardoning every, I don't even like to think of the guy's name. What was his name?
CZ. You're talking about from Binance?
Yeah, I'm talking about him. And I'm also talking about the guy that claimed his mother died it was a 9/11 and his grandmother died in the Holocaust. Santos.
Yeah, George Santos.
I mean, pardoning him, he was staying on the entire political system. Everything he did was crooked and a lie. But then everything Trump does is crooked and a lie. So maybe he related to him.
Yeah, well, look, let me then just ask you this, because you make a statement that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are trying to sit down with Trump, but Trump won't sit down with him. His administration won't sit down with him. I reject that notion, right? I know that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries went to the Oval Office. They sat down with Trump. And it obviously didn't go anywhere. In fact, not only did it not go there, Trump, as a sort of stick in their eye, went ahead, put up all of these Trump 2028 hats on the Lincoln desk, on the Resolute desk. Why are they not doing more? Why is it that you can't hide from members of Congress, right? Why are the Democratic members of Congress not literally every single one of them standing on the steps of the Capitol, standing in front of the White House, all in unison, turning around and saying, we are here to talk, right? And we want the cameras to be there so that the entire country can see who's trying to help the American people and who isn't. You know, their cosplay, their faux anger, and their fist banging on podiums. That's not what's going to get this administration to move. You really gotta put the screws to them as it relates to, the court of public opinion, because he cares more about the court of public opinion than he does about the court of law.
Well, that's true, but we have been back to Washington 3 times since the shutdown as a caucus. Came in on Tuesdays and left on Thursdays. We had meetings where we stood on the Capitol steps and made statements. I did, and I'm sure others did too, videos trying to get in the Capitol door, and it was locked. Let me in. Let me in. We've done those things. We've had scheduled actions in our districts about the shutdown and about the Republican Senate, Republican House, Republican president. They control all the levers. It's a Republican shutdown. The polls showed showed them losing by about 12 points on the shutdown. I think it's like 45% of the people or numbers hold the Republicans responsible. About 32 might hold the Democrats responsible. So they're losing 4-3. And they're probably losing even worse based on the election results of Tuesday, where we picked up seats in Mississippi and Georgia in local offices, which we'd never done. And the Republicans worked real hard to change the judges in Pennsylvania for the 2028 election and 2026. They failed. The Democrats held on and got a big win. California, it was 2-1 to redistrict and take 5 Republicans who will lose their seats because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't care about those 5 Republicans in the House. The House members in the Republican side need to understand Donald Trump couldn't care less about any of them. He uses them. And once he's used them, they're gone. It's history. Those 5 Republicans, they are gone because Trump's overreach in Texas. That's why Gavin Newsom responded to California. They're now the victims. And the reason their victims will be out of the House is because of Donald Trump, who could give a hoot about them.
Yeah. So look, the White House keeps calling this a necessary pause to rein in spending. Yet here's the crazy thing. Billions in defense and corporate subsidies all remain untouched. How do Democrats fight back against that kind of selective austerity?
Well, we don't have any control over the budget. We've tried. Roosevelt as a fighter, but in the budget, big, beautiful bill. We voted no 100%. We were united. That took away Medicaid funding. That took away hurts Medicare and took away SNAP in tremendous amounts and cut away some important agencies that have soft power overseas. USAID did a lot of good. We took away Radio Free Europe. We took away Radio Free Asia. That's just a gift to the Chinese and the Russians. We haven't been given weapons to Ukraine, even though he's going to sell them to the Europeans to get to NATO countries to get to Ukraine. He's still not giving up Tomahawks. And meanwhile, every day, Putin's killing more and more Ukrainians with missiles and drones. So the man is, he's not acting. The public knows he's wrong and he's losing support constantly. And I know you're right. He cares about public opinion, but he's not reading the polls. I mean, he said today it was the shutdown that hurt the Republicans on Tuesday. So if he knows that, he should be trying to resolve it and not trying to do another squeeze play with the airlines. This is going to be chaos and people are going to blame Trump and the Department of Transportation, which is Trump, rightly so. And I'm planning to go to Los Angeles tomorrow. I hope I make it. But if I don't make it, I'm going to be mad anyway, because this is not, he needs to negotiate. He'll probably be playing golf tomorrow.
No, there's no doubt about it. He'll be playing golf. Meanwhile, you've been in Congress a long time now, and you've been there long enough to see shutdowns used as political leverage. But this one feels different. It feels more vindictive. You think that we've crossed the line from dysfunction to deliberate destruction?
Well, it certainly had dysfunction because there's no bipartisanship with the Republicans at all. As far as deliberate destruction, I don't think we want the government to work, and it works for all Americans, and we want to have it work. We believe in government. A lot of the Republicans and Elon Musk didn't, and the Doge team just cut out a lot of good programs, and Trump has cut down a lot of green programs, windmills, et cetera, that we'd spent billions of dollars and we're about ready to use for energy advantages and he just shut them down, throwing that money away with a $400 million plane from the Gutteries, which he's going to spend another $1 billion fixing up to take and put on his museum which is going to be next to the Freedom Tower in Miami. That's a building I think's been there forever. I love that building, and it's going to be disgraced by being next to that awful museum of lies and deceit and corruption.
You know, we're really in such a terrible place. I want to jump back for a quick second and talk about snaps, because it's cruel. It's truly cruelty economy is the way that I describe it. The defunding of SNAP hit right as literally grocery prices jumped another 6%. And 42 million Americans who rely on it. 17 million, they say, are children. 10 million are elderly. Congressman, what do you say to colleagues who voted to gut a program that literally keeps children and elderly and veterans from starving? What do you say to those assholes on the other side of the aisle?
You can't say anything to them. So unfortunately, Michael, they drank the Kool-Aid, and they might as well have been in Jonestown. They take the position, oh, SNAP's going to too many people. There's a lot of people that get it that aren't working. Most everybody on SNAP works. They're just paid low wages by so many American corporations, and the minimum wage hadn't gone up forever. That's why Mom Donnie won, because people are suffering with daily expenses, and they're not getting increases in their salaries, and yet the executives are making 100, 200 times as much as the workers. It's unbelievable, the increase in the difference between the pay of the executives and the workers all throughout this country and all throughout the world, really, but more in this country. We are getting oligarchs. And the whole thing with TikTok, he hated TikTok. He hated crypto. All of a sudden, he loves crypto and he loves TikTok because he can make 6 of his friends a lot of money by putting them in charge of the American crypto portion. And the fact is, he didn't follow what Congress said. Congress had cut him out. It's over. He just stretched it out. Mike Johnson didn't do a thing because Mike Johnson's his lapdog. Hopefully the Supreme Court will act on the tariffs, and whether he get around them some way or not. Tariffs are definitely a congressional prerogative, and he's gone out of order. I mean, it was a joke yesterday at the Supreme Court, or the day before, whatever it was. Sotomayor was making a fool of him, and so was Amy Coney Barrett. There's nothing in there about the president being involved at all in this trade program that he's claiming. It hardly had an argument. He's not a smart man.
So, you know, Congressman, let me jump in and ask you this then, because the administration, they're framing SNAP recipients, and this really bothers me, as dependent on government handouts. While the data, as you were just talking about, clearly shows that most of these individuals are actually working families. So the question I want to ask you, is this cruelty a policy goal, or is it just political theater for Trump's base?
You know, it's their policy. The weird thing is the cuts that have been made to SNAP, the cuts that have been made to Medicaid that won't go into effect. The big cuts on SNAP and Medicaid won't happen until after the 06 election. Very clever of them. The 26 election, won't go in until then. But it's all to give billionaires and people earning over $400,000 a year, but billionaires predominantly, tax breaks. You're giving the richest people on earth tax breaks, and you're taking food from the poor and the hungry, and you're taking health care from the poor. And a lot of those people who can't afford their health care after the ACA premiums go away will not get their health insurance. They can't, otherwise the mortgage payments, they live paycheck to paycheck. What happens then? They go to the emergency rooms. Emergency rooms are crowded. They can't do their jobs. The cost goes back on the taxpayer. It's terrible. More rural hospitals will close, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is just, the man had no business being president ever. He doesn't have the idea to really think or care, but he has no soul. He does not care about others. He has no empathy. Yeah, and I think the American people seen that, and that's why they reacted as they did Tuesday. I mean,
I won't listen. I won't disagree with you on that. But let me ask you about. I want to bring it to your district there in Tennessee. How are the local communities, your community, coping with these SNAP cuts? And what do you think that Democrats can do to make this issue resonate with voters who don't see it as their fight? Until, of course, it is.
Well, people are going to the Mid-South Food Bank, which is one of our major food suppliers and stuff, but they don't have enough food to handle it. They're getting as much as they can. They're getting contributions from the community fund and from the different 501c3s and not-for-profit groups, but they can't do it. SNAP is 10 times as much as these food banks have. And so if you lose 90% of your food, it can't really be made up by the private sector. So they're going to go hungry. They're going to have to skimp and scrimp, and kids will go hungry and go without meals.
And I have a real serious problem with this, because as I sit and I listen to the president and of course, his sycophants, his enablers, I sit and I listen to them talking about how he has now in 10 months brought in, I think we're up to $28 trillion from foreign investments. We hear them constantly using the same term, that we are the richest country, which we are, in the history of the world. That he and he alone has actually brought in more wealth than every other president in history combined. These are all fantastic talking points. So if in fact that's true, that there's $28 trillion sitting on a tariff shelf, which I don't even know what that means. It's sitting on a tariff shelf. How is it possible that a single American should go hungry in this great country of ours?
Well, that money, we don't know if it's true. I can't trust him if he tells you the 24 hours in a day. You can't believe it. He's a constant liar. And so the figures are wrong, but whatever we brought in the tariffs, those are taxes that the American public pays. That came out clearly in the Supreme Court case. Who pays? Roberts asked, who pays those tariffs? It's the importer who pays them. And when they're imported to this country, they're increase the cost, and the public pays for them at the retail counter. So this is him putting more taxes on the public, and they're regressive taxes, and it hurts it hurts our economy. I mean, he is doing what he's doing is illegal and stupid. And Ronald Reagan was right about tariffs. And it also, by him able to do this, taking care of his friend Bolsonaro, who got convicted of overthrowing the government, unlike Trump, taking care of the fella in Argentina, giving him $40 billion. He's got $40 billion to give him because he's got some paper that some folks on Wall Street underwrote. He's basically taking care of the folks on Wall Street, but he's also taking care of Millet or whatever his name is, and the published $40 billion, but he can't find $5 billion or $8 billion to take care of the SNAP payments. He just got diluted values, and the public's catching on to him. And I think the Republican could catch on to him and show that they've got a backbone and they've got some gonads.
Okay, but I have a real serious question here, because you, sir, are a member of Congress, and you have information that obviously I and the general public do not. So if I'm constantly hearing, as you are, that there's $28 trillion sitting on a tariff shelf, that Trump has brought in this 26, 28, $30 trillion, whatever the number is for the day, that he's brought all this money in from foreign investments, and you, as a member of Congress, an elite, are unaware if this money is real or not, where it's located, where is the money going that is allegedly coming into this country from foreign entities in order to invest in the country that Trump says he has total control over. Where is this money? What account is it going into? Who is following through on whether or not that money is ending up somewhere in the United States coffers, or is it ending up in his pocket?
Well, some of it's not going to be in his pocket. He always takes a share of everything, but some of it, and it shouldn't be appropriated by him. It should be Congress should appropriate the monies. Article 1, we appropriate the monies. For him to do it, he's taking advantage of the position he's in when he makes these tariff negotiations with the foreign countries. Part of what they do is have to deal with his companies and give in I believe it's Vietnam, where they've got a major golf course planned and a resort. That was one of the reasons they dealt with Vietnam. They gave them the tariffs they did. They were happy to do it, get it done because they had the golf course coming. They've got golf courses and resorts in the Middle East. I don't know if it's Qatar or Kuwait or wherever it is, but they've got them wherever you look. Trump's got something going. And even in Egypt, when after they were celebrating the war ending, quote unquote, between Gaza and Israel, a fella came up to him. I think he was from Singapore, but it was somewhere in the middle, Southeast, Asia, and said something to him about some issue. And he said, well, talk to my son about that. I mean, it's all about Trump family business. And they don't care about the Constitution. The Constitution is meaningless. It means nothing to him. And that's why he talks about running for a third term. He doesn't believe in the Constitution. He doesn't believe in any restrictions or restraints on him. He's a gorilla in a china shop, and he's breaking a lot of chains.
But he most certainly is. But the question again, I'm really trying to find out is, obviously, like I said, you've been around the Capitol for more than a year, right? I mean, you've been there for a couple of terms. I know that you know because I've known you for a while now. I know you have relationships on the opposite side of the aisle. You know those weeks where you feel like you've been running nonstop and your body's just, done? Well, that was me last month. Late nights, early mornings, takeout dinners, skipping workouts. I needed a reset. And that's when I tried Prolon. Honestly, it's the only nutrition program that actually works for me. Science-backed, convenient, and real results. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet, it gives you a structured plan to lose weight, to burn fat, and to protect lean muscle, all without injections. You actually eat real food while activating your fasting pathways to support metabolic health and rejuvenate your cells. And now, with the next gen 5-day program, you've made it cleaner, more convenient, and even more flavorful. It's plant-based with soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish your body while keeping it in fasting state. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, fat loss, metabolic health, skin appearance, and energy. And the next gen program? Everything's pre-packed and ready to go. Five boxes labeled by day with 100% organic soups and teas. They've kept all the science-backed benefits of the original Prolon, now with richer taste and easier use. Fasting has never been this manageable. So no matter the season, when I want a real reset, Prolon is the only program I trust. It's convenient, it works, and it's backed by Nobel-winning science. So here's the deal. For a limited time, Prolon is offering listeners 15% off site-wide plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to the 5-day program. So go right now to prolonlife.com/mea culpa. That's PROLONLIFE.com/mea culpa to claim your discount and your bonus gift. So go right now to prolonlife.com/mea culpa. Take 5 days to reset your body, recharge your energy, and actually feel like yourself again. Seriously, it works. You're a very amicable kind of guy. You're very easy to get along with. And I know you have relationships with members of Congress on the other side of the aisle. How is it possible that somebody like yourself isn't speaking to another member of Congress from the opposite, from the Republican Party, and saying, hey, John, Joe, Mary, Linda, whatever the person's name is, this is bullshit. You know it. I know it. This government shutdown, longest in U.S. history, has to come to an end. The defunding of SNAP, it's just fucking cruel. It's just cruel. It's inhuman. And then you turn around and we talk about all of the other things that I was saying before, the SNAP cuts, the job losses, the tariffs, the overreaching. What are we as members of Congress elected by our constituents to represent them and this country in the best way that we can? This is certainly not doing our job. Why are we waiting for people like Marjorie Taylor Greene to be the North Star for the Republicans in order to turn around and to guide us back onto a path that is more American than what we're seeing?
Well, we've seen a few Republicans, not many. Mike McCall's one, and then occasionally they rise up and do something. But let me tell you this. I'm on the Intelligence Committee now, and I have been since sometime in the spring or the summer. We're supposed to get briefings on almost anything that goes on with CIA activities, security, whatever, all over the globe. I go in and read my papers when I'm in Washington. You get a bunch of papers and you read them on the world. We have not gotten one paper, one briefing of any sort about what's going on in the Caribbean. Not a word about those boats, what proof we have that they're carrying drugs, what proof the type of drugs they are, and whether or not they're really drug boats. Not a word. Not a word. He's not going to ask for a declaration of war. He's just going to do it. We've gotten information about Iran, and we get information about Kyiv and Ukraine and Russia and all that. A lot of things we learn, China, North Korea, not a word about Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, the Pacific, the Caribbean, and killing people. He's Jesse James without a duster.
Wow.
I shouldn't say.
So, you know what? Before I jump in, because I do want to jump, I want to jump into that topic. What's that?
I was going to say it should be Jesse James. It should be Machine Gun Kelly. I mean, Jesse James was different sort, but he was a bank robber. Machine Gun Kelly was a killer.
Yeah. Well, before I jump into that topic, I actually want to bring up what you just brought up, which is the blue tsunami, right? And I've used the line that this blue tsunami was so big on Tuesday that it actually wiped the red right off of the map for the day. It literally sent shockwaves through red districts across New York, Virginia, California, and New Jersey. Question I want to ask you. Yeah, Mississippi as well. Sure. And many other places as well. What do you think voters were saying with these results? Was this a referendum on Trump's economy or on the Republican brand of chaos that we wake up to and go to bed to every single day?
Both the economy and the chaos. And the economy for sure, because grocery prices are out the roof. Beef prices are up, and bringing more beef from Argentina, which is objectionable to the farmers in America, is not the answer. Giving Argentina more and more money than buying their cows when they're buying their soybeans from China. And I don't care what kind of deal he got. The last time he had a deal with China, she never bought any soybeans. So he's not the art of the deal, but they're fed up with it. And every day it's something else. People are fed up, and the economy is terrible.
Yeah. The economy is terrible. But for all of the GOP's culture wars and for all of their media bluster, it really truly seems, at least to me, that the message from voters was plain and simple. We've had enough. So the question I want to ask you, because I'm also very critical of Ken Martin. I think he is a horrible, just as Jamie Harrison was, I think he is a horrible leader of the DNC. I think they've completely botched every potential message that's out there. But the question I want to ask you is, how then should Democrats capitalize on this momentum without becoming complacent? Because that has always been our biggest problem.
Well, the question is with the shutdown, if we can get opportunity to negotiate and get something done with the health care, it'll be the right thing to do, and it'll be a winner for the American public as well as the Democrats. And it won't be a bad thing for Trump. But Trump doesn't see it that way. I mean, Trump is into fighting, and he doesn't want to give on anything. And I don't think he wants to raise the premiums. He didn't care about the deficit, which has gone up $4 trillion, and it'll go up more, I guess, if we have the premiums, more money that's going to cost the government to fund the ACA. But he doesn't care about that either. It's just, it's hard. He's not somebody you can actually work with.
Well, I understand, but we have to work. I mean, that's the whole thing. Government has to work together. This notion that, well, we can't work with him. Okay, then work with Howard Lutnick, work with, whoever else might be there, with Scott Besson. Somebody has to be able to sit and work with members of his own party that will turn around and said to him, "You're killing us," right? They have all but capitulated their power. There is no Article 1. Article 1 of the Constitution, which of course confers all the power to members of Congress, they have all but just surrendered their power to the Article 2, to the executive branch.
Yeah, it's amazing. You mentioned Besant. Besant's who's got the buddies on Wall Street that got the money for Argentina. So Besant you can't talk to about Argentina. He's forgiven $40 billion to Argentina to salvage his friends on Wall Street, which is really criminal. And Lutnick spoke the truth when he said he knew something about Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein had blackmailed people, and he had film and tapes of people, and he had blackmailed them. Well, that's the last thing Trump wanted to have said, but it's the truth. Jeffrey Epstein filmed more people up there having sex with children, and they're probably taken by Bill Barr when he immediately went into his house with a search warrant and took a bunch of items, and we don't know what they are and where they are. Maybe we find out if we get the Epstein files released. But there are more people that are guilty of child rape, sexual rape of children. And they're friends of Jeffrey's, and Jeffrey's friends were Donald's friends. They were pals.
Well, let me ask you this, Congressman, because there's a sense from this blue tsunami, from this incredible result on Tuesday, that Gen Z and the millennials, these first-time voters, are the ones that truly drove the wave. I know for a fact that that's what drove the wave for New York's mayoral race with Mandani. What do they see that older generations are missing about the stakes of this political moment?
Well, older Americans are doing okay with stocks. They've earned their living. Many people are retired. They got savings that they put in the stock market. The stock market's going up, and younger people don't have stocks. They don't have savings, and they're getting hurt. They can't afford to buy a house, and they can't afford probably to have a car, and everything's expensive to them, and they want everything free childcare, free bus service, free grocery stores, free Angela, free Huey. They want all the free stuff.
Yeah. Well, I had this conversation with a guy not too many days ago where I tried to explain, because he was maybe a few years younger than I, was turning around and was like, yeah, we all should have free transportation, and Mandani's going to do that. And I turned around and I said, you do understand that that's a political promise that will never come to fruition. It's impossible that he cannot order the MTA or provide free transportation to anyone. So they said to me, well, how the hell do you know? What the hell do you know about the MTA? So I said to him, with all due respect to you, I actually sat on the fucking board. And I was put on the board by Governor Pataki years ago. I was on the Inspector General's Management Advisory Board. So I think I know a little bit more about it than you. You know that the MTA is a joint, it's a joint venture with the state of New Jersey. So are you really telling me that the mayor of New York has the ability within which to affect, free transportation? You think that New Jersey maybe will have a desire to be involved in that discussion, that they're just going to allow the mayor to go ahead and do it, and then free groceries? Seriously? Do you know what they turned around? They said to me, no, you'll see. He'll figure out how to do it. It's almost the same as the way I heard people talking about Trump when he said, no, don't worry. He knows, he's the greatest, or as Lutnick would say, he's the greatest negotiator in the history. The flagellation there is just incredible. But they're doing the same with Mandani. And I don't like the fact that a guy who's really now finally up on the stage, a real stage, not a city councilman, but the mayor of New York is being described as the future of the Democratic Party. I don't see him that way.
Not the future of the Democratic Party, but the Republicans will use him as their poster child to campaign against Democrats, especially with Nancy Pelosi retiring, who's been the poster child in the past, like we use Newt Gingrich. But Mamdani is not what happens in New York does not happen anywhere but in New York. There are so many immigrants, Southeast Asian, Southern Asian, whatever, Middle Eastern, that they were there, and he got them fired up and going, a lot of young people. And New York's a very expensive city. He's not going to be able to put the prose on the poetry, as he's talked about yesterday or the day before, quote, Mario Cuomo. He's going to have a tough time doing it. And governing is a whole different game. He didn't have a very effective record of the New York Assembly. As I understand it, he didn't pass hardly any bills, and he had the worst attendance record of anybody up there. So when you're mayor, you got to have a attendance record, and you got to do some stuff. He's going to have problems in New York. But I'm concerned about this whole thing, and I'm not necessarily saying anything about Mamdani because I don't know too much about him, but I'm concerned a whole lot of the social democrat program is built on a layer of anti-Semitism. A lot of this, what the social democrats are for, and I've got a social democrat opponent running against me here in Memphis, a lot of it is they're pro-Palestine. And there are a lot of young people that like to say, I'm pro-Palestine. Well, nobody's in favor of all the children being killed in Gaza. And Netanyahu, I think, went too far. And I've got some questions about some of his tactics, but he was dealing with Hamas and they hit among the citizens. And to get Hamas, you had to take some shots that got some collateral damage. Hamas is terrible. And these people don't condemn Hamas, but they condemn Israel. And they really don't want Israel to survive. Iran doesn't want Israel to survive. Hamas doesn't want Israel to survive. And if you say, some of these people say they're not going to vote to give Israel any weapons in the future, you're not going to give them defensive weapons from the drones that come and the missiles from Iran. And if you don't give them offensive weapons, what are they going to have to defend themselves when Iran comes to get them? They need offensive weapons and Hezbollah's not going to give up their weapons in Lebanon. I was in Lebanon 2 months ago. The hope there is that Hezbollah will give up their weapons. I don't think they will. And Hezbollah is a political force in Lebanon. They've got a new government, and I've met with all the officials, and I feel good about them. But they're being very, very careful about how they deal with Hezbollah and getting weapons from them. And I don't think Hezbollah's going to give up their weapons. I think they're going to restock. And Israel's got more problems from Hezbollah. So all these young people that think it's so wonderful to be for Palestine, they should be treated well. They should be given nutrition. They should be given medicine. There should have been a way to get that into them. But as far as saying that you're not going to give weapons to Israel to defend themselves, that's wrong. Israel is the home of the Jewish people. There needs to be a home of the Jewish people. They were our only friend, a democracy friend of the Middle East for so many years. And they're still the only real democracy in the Middle East. I mean, certainly not Egypt's not a democracy. No place else is a democracy. And you don't surrender your friends like that. So that's part of the socialist program. Every candidate they got was anti-Israel. The guy that lost for mayor in Minneapolis was anti-Israel. He had said Israel was a genocider. It might be genocide. It's hard to say. I wouldn't say it. I don't like Netanyahu, but I'm not going to go that far. There's a lot of anti-Semitism going on in this country and in the world.
Yeah, and look, I'm with you on that, and my hope is that Mamdani tones that rhetoric down. I have always been for a two-state solution. I don't like the fact that they're under an occupation. I have many friends who are Palestinian, but Israel has to also be recognized as having a right to exist, and I think the only way to make that sort of a deal, if there is a deal even to be had, because my understanding is that, you've got Jared Kushner who's hanging out there in the Middle East with folks like Bibi Netanyahu and others, and Mohammed bin Salman, because he's intending on taking the entire coastline and turning it into high-priced housing, right? And you have the entire Palestine is 170 square miles. It's going to take at least more than maybe 2 decades to rebuild the entire place. But they want to be the controllers, meaning Kushner and Trump, of course. The master planner for this 170 square miles, turn it into a manufacturing location, turn it into a tech hub, put mega $1 million houses and so on, for them to sell to their friends and to the wealthiest in the world. This is not right. What they should be doing is negotiating with folks like MBS, or speaking to the Emir of Qatar or the King of Jordan and others and saying, look, we're going to create a board of 7, and you are going to be in charge of ensuring that Palestine and the Palestinian people have an opportunity to live a normal life. It's your responsibility to ensure that Hamas does not take over again, that the Palestinian Authority, who's as corrupt as anybody, that they don't end up taking all the money that's supposed to be put back into Palestine to rebuild, that they're not taking it for themselves and leaving the Palestinian people living, eating, and sleeping in rubble. That's what they need to do. But instead, they're all talking about now who's going to whack up what section. You're going to call this is going to be Kushnerville, this is Trump Town, this is going to be Donaldville. I mean, this isn't normal. This isn't normal stuff. And I'm with you. I'm not a fan of Bibi Netanyahu, but something definitely has to be done. And this anti-Semitism that's running from it, as a result of it, that shit has to stop.
It does. It's a shame that here we are, just only a generation or two after the Holocaust, and this new generation is coming up, the real young ones that are into all this democratic socialist. It's not just economics. It runs into being for the underdog, and I understand being for the underdog, but Palestinians were Hamas and Hezbollah, and they were not underdogs. They had weapons, and they killed Israelis. And Hezbollah, when they got back in, Trump gave them a license to do it. They went and killed their fellow Gaza citizens who they thought were their enemies that maybe worked with the Israelis, and they shot them down in public. They lined them up and shot them in the head. They beat the hell out of them. They are terrorists, and they're bad people. And Trump allowed it. He said they've got to clean up some stuff to get order. I mean, that's what a mafia guy would say. Take care of Louis. I don't know you had a problem with the Gambino family, but take care of him. It's absurd.
Yeah. Can we go back for a second to what you were talking about, that militarization and the legal limits regarding the attacks on those boats? I want to bring that back up because it's another thing that when I see it happening, because they're very quick to show it on television, almost like they're proud of it. Literally, the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, just announced what it's calling now the 16th deadly strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat in the Eastern Pacific. 2 more people killed, now bringing the total to, I think it's at least 66 dead as a result of these strikes. And they show it, it's black and white. All of a sudden you see the boat in the water. Next thing you see an explosion and you see the boat on fire. Okay, Congressman, I got to ask you, what legal authority is the administration claiming that justifies lethal attacks at sea without any congressional authorization? And more importantly, how are they even evaluating the claim?
I don't know what they're claiming. I think it's a war, and it's a war on Americans with drugs. And he claims each boat, 25,000 people would be killed if they didn't get through. Well, fentanyl is what's killing a lot of people. It's not killing 25,000, it's killing a lot of people. But fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela, doesn't come from Colombia, it comes up through Mexico. So he's not getting any fentanyl. And if it's cocaine, cocaine's not a good drug either, but it's not killing 25,000 people. And you don't know if it's cocaine. You don't know if it's marijuana. You don't know if it's anything. Rand Paul, I know Rand. I like Rand. Rand's against this. And Rand said, I don't know if his math's right or not, but he said those boats would have to fill up with gas 21 times to get to Miami.
I think it's maybe even more than that. By the way, here's the crazy thing too. Those boats, which have like 3 twin Mercury engines and so on, they can go a distance of 100 miles on a tank full. It's about 2,000 miles. So you're right. They'd have to fill up 21 times. But here's the part that I'm just lost on. How is it that members of Congress are not turning around and saying, whoa, 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 slow down. All right. You cannot create these strikes at sea. And by the way, Trump also said that it was 300,000 Americans have died as a result of fentanyl. You're talking about 10% of the population has died? You ever try launching a podcast with zero experience? Well, let me tell you, it's like being tossed into a cage match with a grizzly bear, blindfolded, wearing clown shoes. I mean, when I started Mea Culpa, I thought to myself, come on, how hard can this be? Well, script writing, logos, production schedules, ad deals, and don't even get me started on the tech setup. I mean, I felt like I was decoding the damn Matrix. If only I had Shopify when I launched this beast. Shopify is the platform behind millions of businesses across the globe, responsible for a whopping 10%, you hear me? 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. And my friends, that's not hype. That's a fact. From big names like Mattel and Gymshark to folks just getting their hustle off the ground, Shopify's got their back. I mean, you want a gorgeous online store? Shopify's got hundreds of sleek, ready-to-go templates that make you look like a design god. And AI tools? Yeah, they've got those too. Writing your product descriptions, jazzing up your images, maybe even making you sound smarter than you actually are. I mean, not naming names or anything, right? I mean, need a marketing squad? Shopify's built-in tools let you hit email, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your customers are scrolling or doom scrolling. And listen, Shopify handles it all. Inventory, returns, international shipping. I mean, they are the ride or die business partner that you never knew that you needed. So if you got a big idea or even a little one and you're ready to turn that dream into a reality, head over to shopify.com/Cohen. So if you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify and sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Cohen. That's Shopify, SHOPIFY.com/Cohen. One more time, that's shopify.com/Cohen. Listen, I know that people are dying from fentanyl, all right? That we all know, but it's not 10% of our population. That I also know. And I'm just lost at the fact that members of Congress, and I'm talking about on both sides of the aisle here, are sitting with their hands under their ass and not turning around and saying, Mr. President, let us all be crystal clear on this. You do not have the legal authority within which to do this.
There are 3 or 4 Democrats in the Senate who brought it up often. One of them, I think, is Adam Schiff, and one of them might be senator from Hawaii. I'm not sure. The sharp guy that's looking maybe to be leader in the future. But there are some Democrats in the Senate because they're still meeting. At least they can talk occasionally. They don't do much, but they can talk occasionally. But we have the same problem in the House, and Raskin's been a leader on it. We've sent letters. This is just absurd. There should be a declaration of war, or they shouldn't be doing it, and there's no authorization for that to happen. The Coast Guard should be arresting people. They shouldn't be summary execution, and they summarily suggesting that these people are in the drug business. Now there is signal intelligence, and they could have signal intelligence and know what they're doing, and they hear it. But I don't know that they're saying it. They're not divulging that to the Intelligence Committee, so they may be not so confident about their information because they're not sharing it with a group that keeps secrets to what is given them. It's awful. And those 66 people, the guy from Ecuador and the guy from Colombia that survived and went back to their countries, one of the countries let the guy go, Ali free. The other guy, I think they might have held for drug charges. I'm not sure. That might have been the guy in Colombia, but with the guy from Ecuador, he apparently didn't do anything. And we didn't hold him because we didn't have proof to hold him for doing drugs and take him to charge him with a crime for transporting drugs to the United States. So but they kill them. And all those people, they all have families. They all have maybe children, maybe grandparents, maybe parents, wives, whatever. And they're dead. And the man who wants the Nobel Peace Prize speaks about it just Fine. They're at the bottom of the ocean. He's happy about it. He will never get the Nobel Peace Prize because the only peace he cares about is a peace he's not going to get any more of because he's too old.
Well, I hear you on that one, but these strikes that he's doing, he wants a piece of the pie, that's for sure. These strikes, they come as now carrier groups and other assets are moving into the region. I mean, he's taken a battleship and he's brought it to that region.
And a carrier.
This to me, and I'm certain to you as well, is an unmistakable escalation.
He wants to take over. He wants the oil. He wants the oil in Venezuela for somebody who's going to kick back something to him.
Meanwhile,
think about this ballroom they're going to build, which is insane. A 999 person ballroom, enough for all the insurrectionists, probably enough of them to come back and they can have a reunion. But where are they going to get the waiters? They're pouring off the waiters.
Right.
This is just, you make it a tomb. It could be Invalides and put Trump in it.
Well, do you really need waiters? You could make a gigantic buffet, and they can put they could put one of those things where it's on like a movable thing that goes to everybody's table. You just take off what you want, like in some of these sushi places. But there you go, double cheeseburger. Congressman, let me ask you this. By the way, you shouldn't be eating that. Beyond the immediate humanitarian toll, what are the diplomatic and the regional security risks here, especially with Venezuela and other governments that are now accusing the United States of fabricating a pretext? It's hard for me to imagine that we are now listening to the president of Venezuela making the claim that there is absolutely no clear evidence. No clear evidence has been produced tying these particular vessels to any terrorist organization, to any drug smuggling operation. How should Congress now respond to prevent this sort of mission creep?
Well, Congress is 435 members, but the leaders of Congress, the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader in the Senate, they make the agenda. They put the bills on the floor. They control the debate. And we're not in session, so there's not much we even talk about. As far as doing anything or passing legislation, we can't do it without Republican votes with us. And then you got to have the Republican Speaker and the Rules Committee put it on the floor. And they don't want to do that. They don't want to erase the Epstein files. They are afraid of so much. And Mike Johnson, the whole thing about him. You want to know me? Read the Bible. The best part, in my opinion, of the New Testament is Matthew. You were hungry and I fed you. SNAP payments. You were sick and I healed you. Premiums on ACA, cut Medicaid. You were hungry and you were sick and that's what he did. And Matthew was about taking care of people. And we don't do that anymore in this government. The government used to do it. They're cutting out all the programs from the Great Society, cutting out the Voting Rights Act. I think
you're also referring. I think the third one that you were thinking of is that you were without shelter, and I gave you shelter.
Yeah. Okay. It was without clothing too, and I fed and I clothed you. But
right.
You were naked and I clothed you. Yeah. But anyway, he doesn't do any of that, and Mike Johnson doesn't do it. They just he's been part of Trump, and he's lost whatever feelings he had about Christianity, because Christianity is not what this government's about. This is not about caring about others. It's nothing.
But since we're talking about that, right? 100,000 jobs were allegedly lost just in October alone. Most of which
decades,
worst jobs in 2 decades.
Yeah.
Most of it is from cost cutting, not for demand, but simply cost cutting, right? Going back to Doge and some of these other programs. What does that say, in your opinion, about the real state of Trump's booming economy?
Well, the stocks keep going up. The businesses benefit from this cruel treatment of workers, and they just work people harder and they don't increase their wages. and the stock prices keep going up. There's a time this market's going to come back down. It is it's showing signs of being out of control. And I don't know if we should all buy treasury bills, but we're heading toward a bad time.
But Congressman, look, while I acknowledge the stock market is at an all-time high, I grant that. But the stock market is not an indicator of the economy. And again, this is the lousy messaging of the Democratic Party. Yeah, he keeps saying you always tout your best shit, right? I mean, you're not going to turn around and say, oh, yeah, well, so-and-so stock is in the toilet. No, you turn around and you pick because you want to pat yourself on the ass. You pick the fact that the stock market is at an all-time high. But say, for example, the NASDAQ, it's basically 10 stocks that are running the entire NASDAQ because we keep hearing it over and over and over again from every single Republican that the stock market is strong, as if that's supposed to make us, all happy. But that's not comfort to the person who just lost their job, who can't afford rent, that lost their SNAP benefits, that's not going to be able to afford premium. I just got in the mail 3 weeks ago a letter from my insurance company telling us that the premium cost is going to increase as of February 1st by 25%. And I'm like, what? How? Why? What are you talking about, 25%? I mean, who can afford to keep doing this, right? What if you're living from paycheck to paycheck? The question I want to ask you in closing, because unfortunately this hour goes by way too fast and I got a million more questions for you. But Congressman, how did Democrats reframe success around people and not portfolios?
Well, the Democrats did it on Tuesday, and we're going to keep doing it. We're talking about better health care costs. We're talking about better jobs and opportunities to try to raise the minimum wage and benefits. We support the unions, and the unions have given people better wages and better working conditions over the years. They've created the middle class, and the Democrats do stand for those things. And the Republicans stand for the people who've already got the monies. They're controlled by, you just saw when Trump was sworn in, he had all of the tech boys right there behind him. And they were looking at Bezos' wife, and they were standing in a line, and all of them behind him. They were all there. Gates, Bezos, I don't know. They were all the guys. I don't know all of their names, I guess. Guy that did Facebook, whatever his name is. But
Zuckerberg. So my question to you again, how do we reframe the message? Because there's no message. There's no real message coming out that would move the needle and go viral so that, again, all Americans, Republicans, Democrats, independents understand that this administration is the one that's putting them in the hole, and not, as every single Republican that goes on television or speaks to media says, this is the Schumer shutdown.
I think the public knows it. I think we saw it on Tuesday, Michael, and we need to be more vocal, but we're trying to be. We've run ads. We have messaging. We have programs where we ask people to do certain things on certain days in our home districts, and we do it. And we're going to continue doing it. And I think the public is sick of Trump, and they realize he doesn't care about them, the people at the bottom who need the paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of them were voting for MAGA. They're not going to do it again. MAGA is going to have to change, or it's over. And Trump's over.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, my friend, Congressman Steve Cohen, appreciate you as always. Looking forward to seeing you, whether DC, New York, or there in Tennessee. Always happy to be a part of your crew.
Thank you, Michael. And you made my scheduler, Patty, say, oh, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Congressman.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.